Hi, my name is Julio Rivera. I'm an activist, journalist, adventurer, veteran, television presenter, and businessman. I've covered many of the major historical events going on around the world over the past several years, and after watching regime changes, conflict, and historic elections globally, I've come to the conclusion that the most underreported crisis in the world today can be defined in only one word: malware. That's why I've decided to dedicate my time to educating people everywhere and exposing the dangers that exist on the devices that we've become tethered to and depend on for so many reasons in our day-to-day life. Welcome to This Week in Malware. On This Week in Ransomware, we'll be covering: are internet users their own worst enemy? Well, a new report states that weak passwords caused 30% of ransomware infections in 2019. The ethics of ransomware reporting. Why are companies risking potential penalties from the Securities and Exchange Commission in an effort to hide cyber attacks? Like its real-life counterpart, Snake ransomware slithers into your system and injects its venomous malware payload into your computer. In 2019, weak passwords were again one of the most common cybersecurity vulnerabilities in causing 30% of ransomware infections in 2019, according to research from the website precisesecurity.com. Their research also revealed that phishing scams caused more than 67% of the ransomware infections globally in 2019. And in that same year, weak passwords were the third most common cause of ransomware infections. The 30% number indicates a concerning lack of password security awareness. In addition, a 2019 Google survey regarding beliefs and behaviors around online security showed that 2/3 of individuals recycle the same password across multiple accounts, and more than 50% admitted using one favorite password for the majority of their accounts. Perhaps even more concerning was the fact that only 1/3 of respondents knew how to define what a password manager app was. 22.2 million victims used 123456 as password. At this point, it should be common knowledge that hard-to-guess passwords provide the best level of security for your home or business network. However, according to the UK's National Cybersecurity Centre 2019 survey, password recycling and weak passwords still represent a significant risk for companies and individuals all over the world. That statement is backed up by the fact that the survey's breach analysis indicates that 22.3 million victims from all parts of the world used 123456 as a password. Another 7.8 million data breach victims chose a 12345678 password, and more than 3.5 million people globally lazily assigned the word password to the gatekeeper to protect their sensitive information. Only 12% of US online users took advantage of password manager apps. According to data from a 2019 Statista survey, 64% of US respondents found stolen passwords as the most concerning issue about data privacy. Despite these concerns, many fail to improve their methods of keeping track of login information. A deeper dive into the numbers shows that 43% of respondents reported that their primary method of keeping track of their passwords was to write it down. Another 45% of respondents said memorizing login data was their primary method of tracking, with only 12% of US online users taking advantage of password manager applications. Well, that was some alarming information, sure to make anyone who takes their password security lightly rethink their position. Now let's talk about the ethics of ransomware reporting, and specifically, why are companies risking potential penalties from the Securities and Exchange Commission in an effort to hide cyber attacks? Every year, scores of ransomware attacks paralyze the computer networks of businesses, government agencies, medical offices, and many small businesses. But these attacks pose a particular dilemma for publicly traded companies which operate under SEC regulations. These attacks are costly, they affect operations, and more importantly, expose cybersecurity vulnerability. They also can potentially meet the definition used by the SEC of a material event, or an incident that a reasonable person would consider important to an investment decision. Material events are required to be reported in public filings, and failing to do so could compel a SEC action or a shareholder lawsuit. Despite this, some companies worry that acknowledging a ransomware attack could earn them negative press while alarming investors and driving down share prices. As a result, although many companies cite ransomware in filings as a risk, they often fail to report or describe them in clouded terms. This failure to disclose incidents to the SEC hampers federal monitoring of ransomware assaults on US businesses. Companies often avoid alerting the FBI out of fear that the attacks will become public and compel the FBI to investigate unrelated problems. These gaps in incident reporting become more glaring as the prevalence of cyber attacks against businesses increases. In October of 2019, the FBI issued a warning that attacks are becoming more targeted, sophisticated, and costly, and that the losses from them have increased significantly. Some recent ransomware attacks have resulted in data theft and threats from cyber criminals to sell or publish it. That constitutes a breach of security that could undermine one of the most common corporate rationales for their lack of disclosure. Some companies lean on the notion that ransomware attacks aren't material because there's little evidence that personally identifiable information, the release of which may trigger reporting requirements in various states, is stolen. Usually what happens when companies do allude to an attack in SEC filings is that they typically resort to euphemisms rather than the specific wording that would best describe what caused their business to suffer millions of dollars in losses. For investors, being kept in the dark about ransomware attacks and any subsequent payments put them at a disadvantage when evaluating potential stock purchases. They are basically unable to make informed decisions about stock ownership or any possible proposals that could boost a company's cybersecurity. Failing to disclose these material events to investors and the SEC can spur backlash from both. After Yahoo failed to report a data breach affecting hundreds of millions of accounts, it later settled a shareholder lawsuit for $80 million and paid a whopping $35 million in penalties to the SEC. Whether or not a ransomware attack that doesn't expose large amounts of personal data must be deemed material and reported to the SEC is a much more complicated matter. While ransom demands generally aren't large enough to be considered singularly material, companies often incur other larger costs related to the attack. This usually comes in the form of expensive outside consultants, the cost of replacing damaged equipment, higher cybersecurity insurance premiums, in addition to coping with lost revenues from interrupted operations. Then there are additional issues related to customer dissatisfaction and the loss of corporate data. Going forward, corporations should weigh the importance of any compromised information and of the impact of the incident on the company's operations, according to the SEC. Now we can all better understand the impact that cybercrime has on the larger publicly traded companies, as well as the investors weighing the risks of buying stocks. Now let's learn about a ransomware with a name that's sure to inspire fear in web surfers all over the world: snake ransomware. Like most ransomware strains, snake ransomware won't slither near your operating system files and programs, so your computer will still boot up, log in, and let you open your programs, so for all intents and purposes you still have a working system. But your most critical files, including documents, spreadsheets, photos, videos, music, tax returns, business plans, and others, are scrambled with a randomly chosen encryption key. The original file name and directory are then recorded with the decryption key stored and the special tag ECANS, which is snake written backwards, finishing off the encrypted file name. The decryption key for each file is itself encrypted using what's known as public key encryption, which is a special sort of encryption algorithm in which there are two keys rather than one, so that the key used for locking the data can't be used to then unlock it. This type of malware generates a random key to encrypt the file using what's called a symmetric or secret key encryption algorithm. To decrypt the file, you need the private key to unlock the symmetric key, then the symmetric key to unlock the file. But why not just use public key cryptography alone to lock and unlock the file? The answer is that symmetric cryptography is ideally suited for scrambling large amounts of data, but public key crypto is much slower and suited only for scrambling small amounts of data. But why is it called snake ransomware? The hackers use the ECANS marker, unencrypted, at the end of every encrypted file. We can only assume that this was done as an easy way of identifying an encrypted file if you decide to pay up and purchase the decryption key. Most ransomware marks scrambled files by adding an unusual extension to the file name so they stand out. Snake ransomware also adds a different, randomly chosen string of characters to the names of encrypted files so that they can't be picked out by name alone. This ransomware actually writes this file called fix-your-files.txt into what Windows calls the public desktop, usually in the C drive. If the ransomware isn't run with administrator privileges, then although it will be able to overwrite all your files, it won't be able to write to the public folder, and it will end up in another hidden folder where you're likely to miss it. We think the ransomware was designed to give administrator access across the compromised network to inflict maximum damage, and has been programmed this way. The "What happened to your files" document says, "We breached your corporate network and encrypted the data on your computers. The encrypted data includes documents, databases, photos, and more." Another interesting nugget about snake ransomware is that the programmers behind it don't intend to target individual users on your network, but instead go after everyone. What to do to prevent a snake bite? Don't run unexpected attachments. Don't open up remote access to your network unless you really need to. Don't ignore any possible warning signs in your security logs. If you spot them first, don't let other users on your network talk you into softening up login security. Employ two-factor authentication, where you need to copy a one-time code off your phone every time you log in. You know, as I think about the dangers that exist online, not unlike the subjects we learned about in this video, I know I feel a lot better having an anti-malware program like Spy Hunter installed in my PC, providing me the protection I need against malware, and I think you should too. Spy Hunter 5's strongest features are found in its malware repair capabilities. Spy Hunter 5's remediation algorithms dive deep into your system to remove and address complex malware issues affecting PCs today. While many anti-malware products only flag and quarantine malware and ultimately fail to fully remediate the root problem, the Spy Hunter 5 remediation algorithm detects, quarantines, and programmatically repairs malware problems on your PC. Spy Hunter 5 is a powerful PC utility that repairs malware threats in many cases where other competing anti-malware and antivirus programs may fail. To detect and remove malware for free, go to enigmasoftware.com and download Spy Hunter today. Thanks for watching.